Good morning. This is Rashad Mitchell coming to you live from my YouTube channel as I continue on my part series on the professional sports teams that didn't win a championship during that season. It's part 43. And the team we're going to be talking about today is the 2006 New York Mets. Now, this team definitely could have won a championship that year. Definitely. They had a 97-65 record. Actually, they tied for the most wins with the New York Yankees. And another thing too, if you're a Met fan at that time, is that the Mets went farther in the playoffs than the Yankees did because the Yankees lost in 4 games, I believe. 96, 97, 65 was their record. They won the National League East, and like I was saying, like 97, 65, they made it to the playoffs, won the National League East. They made it farther than the Yankees did. Well, I bring that up because the Yankees had a 97, 65 record as much as they did, the same record, and they was able to move further in the playoffs because the Yankees they lost in the first round to the Detroit Tigers. Will go on to the World Series. The Yankees were the number one seed. They lost in 4 games. So the Mets had a chance to be the best in New York from a baseball perspective by trying to win the championship themselves. And this was the 20th anniversary of them winning their first championship in '86. So here's the chance for the Mets to try to like shine their own and win that third championship because they won in '69, '86. Now on the 20th anniversary of their second championship, here's their chance. Now before I get into the NLCS against the Cardinals, who they would end up losing to, actually they would be the eventual champions of the World Series, the St. Louis Cardinals. But before I get into that, I'm gonna get into this team. As far as like the starting lineup, players that they had on that team. Okay, that stood out. Carlos Delgado definitely had a big year that year. First baseman, hit 38 home runs, 114 RBIs that he drove in. He averaged 265 batting average. Did his thing with that. And then you had Carlos Beltran, hit 275, hit 41 home runs, 116 RBIs. David Wright was doing his thing. He had the third baseman had 26 home runs, 116 RBIs, hit 311. Those guys that stood out to me. Pitchers they had on this team: Steve Trachsel, Tom Glavine, Pedro Martinez, Leandro Hernandez. So this team is really, really good. Really good team. Billy Wagner was their closer. So it looks like he had 40 saves. Wagner. All right, so now let's get into this NLCS between the Cardinals and the Mets, because the Mets definitely had a chance to win the World Series and at least get to the World Series, but they couldn't get past the NLCS opponent in form of the St. Louis Cardinals. It was a team that probably was unlikely to win the championship. When you look at their record, I mean, they were 82-80, I believe. So let's get into it. First. Yeah, the Mets were heavily favored, rightfully so. Once again, this Cardinals team won 83 games. Their record was above 500 by 5 games, so they were 83-78. But the Mets was heavily favored. But it didn't make no difference because Cardinals beat the Mets. Jeff Suppan was the MVP. And before I get into the NLCS, with the Mets and the Cardinals, the Mets did beat the Angels, and the Cardinals beat the Padres for this matchup to be what it is. So let's get into it. Game 1, the Mets held serve at home in Shea Stadium at the time, 2-0. Tommy Glavine pitched a great game, shutout baseball. Both pitchers pitched well. Jeff Weaver pitched well, but Tom Glavine pitched well. He earned a win with 7 innings of shutout baseball. The game's only runs came on a two-run homer by Carlos Beltran off of losing pitcher Jeff Weaver in the sixth, following a two-out single by Paul Lo Duca. The rival was aided by stellar defense as the Mets turned two double plays in the third inning with runners on first and second. Third baseman David Wright caught a line drive off the bat of David Eckstein and threw to second to double up Yadier Molina. So in the following inning, Juan Encarnacion flied out to shallow center to Beltran, who threw to first on a run to double up Albert Pujols, who went 0 for 3 with the walk. So left fielder Andy Chavez also made an excellent diving play on a fair flare hit by Ronnie Belial. He replaced Cliff Floyd, who left the second inning when he re-aggravated his Achilles tendon. So that was a story on that. The next game, St. Louis even the series at 1-1, winning over the over the Mets 9-6. This was a high-scoring baseball affair. Now the Mets got to a great start. They got up to a 3-0 lead in the first inning when Carlos Delgado hit a 3-run homer off of Chris Carpenter. Then Yadier Molina then drove in 2 runs with the bases loaded, double in the second inning off of John Maine. They got on the board. Then the bottom of the second, Andy Chavez hit a leadoff double, moved to third on the ground out, scored on Jose Reyes. But Jim Edmonds' home run after a walk tied the game in the third. Delgado's home run in the fifth put the Mets back on top, 5-4. Cardinals reliever Josh Hancock walked Reyes, scored on Paulo Duca's double. But Scott Spezio, who started the game at third base in place of injured Scott Rowland, had 2 hits, 3 RBIs, putting a 2-run triple on an 0-2 pitch in the 7th inning to tie the game at 6 off of Guillermo Mota. Now lefty closer Billy Whiter came into the game in the top of the 9th. Left fielder Chris Duncan, the hefty lefty hitter, was due to lead off, so Duncan was pulled in favor of Taguchi, a right-hitting outfielder who was a better defensive option than Duncan. So Taguchi homered on the 9th pitch of the at-bat to put the Cardinals up ahead 7-6. Albert Pujols double, moved to third on a ground out before Spezio's RBI double and Juan Encarnacion's single extended the Cardinals' lead to 9-6. So Tyler Johnson and Adam Wainwright retired the Mets in order in the bottom of the 9th, and the Cardinals won to tie the series at 1-1. So the series went to St. Louis at Busch Stadium for Game 3 of the NLCS game. The series tied at 1-1, and St. Louis did their thing. Jeff Suppan pitched shutout baseball as the Cardinals beat the Mets 5-0. Mets only had 3 hits. Steve Traxel pitched for the Mets. So Jeff Suppan pitched 8 innings as the Cardinals defeated and shut out the Mets 5-0. Scott Spezio hit a 2-run triple, the second 2-run triple in as many games in the bottom of the first inning to put the Cardinals ahead 2-0. So the Cardinals lowered the bases on 2 walks afterward, but Mets starter Steve Traxel struck out Yadier Molina looking to end the inning. Next inning, Suppan's lead-off home run made it 3-0. Who then loaded the bases on the 2 walks and a line drive off the bat of Preston Wilson that hit Traxel, who left for the bruised thigh. The Mets reliever Darren Oliver threw a wild pitch to Jim Edmonds that led to David Eckstein scoring before Edmonds' RBI groundout played it the last run of the game. Oliver then pitched 6 shutout innings. So after the game, the Mets had not scored in like 12 innings consecutively, making it 14 before scoring in the 3rd inning of Game 4. So the Mets lost that game. They trailing 2-1, so now they must win Game 4, else they was going to be down 3-1. So Game 4 in Busch Stadium in St. Louis, the Mets bounced back strong. They won 12-5, had 14 hits. It was a very pivotal game for the Mets, so they sent Oliver Perez to pitch. He was picked up at the trade deadline from Pittsburgh Pirates to face the Cardinals' own young starter Anthony Reyes. So in a game that will see an NLCS record-tying 7 home runs, the Cardinals grabbed an early lead in the bottom of the 2nd on a Yadier Molina single, so it seemed to be a repeat of the night before. But in the top of the 3rd, the Mets hit 2 home runs, one being Carlos Beltran's second of the series, a 6 against the Cardinals in NLCS play. Another representing David Wright's first hit of the series, a first home run of the playoffs. The lead was short-lived as Scott Spezio walked with 1 out, then scored on Juan Encarnacion's 2-out triple to tie the game. The game was stayed tied to the top of the fifth inning, when Paulo Duca reached on an error by Cardinals second baseman Ronnie Belliard. So Beltran managed a walk. Carlos Delgado scored on the opposite field 3-run homer and his third in the series. So now the Mets had a 5-2 lead and knocked out star Brad Thompson. So David Eckstein pulled the Cards back in the bottom of the fifth with a leadoff homer. But in the top of the sixth, the Mets extended the lead. Jose Reyes and Paulo Duca hit back-to-back singles off of Josh Hancock, and Beltran walked to load the bases. Delgado then hit a ground rule double to drive in 2 runs, then right walk. Tyler Johnson relieved Hancock. Sean Green singled to drive in 1 run, and Jose Valentin, who at that point was only 3 for 20 in the playoffs, hit a bases clearing double down the left field line to make it 11-3. The Cardinals got home runs from Edmonds, Molina to make it an 11-5 game. But Mets manager Willie Randolph then pulled starters Perez, brought in submarine pitcher Chad Bradford to try and limit the damage. Beltran retired the NLCS record of 7 home runs with another in the 7th off a Braden Looper en route to a 12-5 lead. Now, it caused Beltran tied Babe Ruth for the all-time postseason record of 7 home runs against the Cardinals because he hit 4 home runs against them when he was with the Houston Astros in 2004. So the Mets tied the series up at 2-2. 12-5 win. Now it's a critical, pivotal Game 5 at Busch Stadium. And the Cardinals won 4-2. Scoreless for the first 3 innings. Things broke out in the 4th inning, where the Mets jumped out to a 2-0 lead on Jose Valentin's double off of Jeff Weaver. Next half inning, Albert Pujols struck his first home run and RBI of the series to cut the Mets lead in half. Then Glavine then walked Scott Rowland and allowed a single to Jim Edmonds before Ronnie Belliard tied the game with a single to left. David Eckstein singled to lead off the 5th and scored on Preston Wilson double to put the Cardinals up 3-2. So St. Louis padded their lead in the 6th through a pitch hit home run by Ricky Chris Duncan off of Pedro Feliciano that made the final score 4-2 Cardinals. Now the win will move the Cardinals within 1 of the second National League pennant in 3 years. So Game 6, game on the line, series on the line for the Mets. They need to get this win to keep the series moving to a 7th and final deciding game, facing elimination. So the Mets were able to handle their business and win 4-2. John Mayne was pitching, Chris Carpenter was pitching. Mets struck first in the 1st inning. But first thing first, John Mayne allowed no runs in 5 1/3 innings, earning the win for the Mets. Jose Reyes hit a leadoff home run in the bottom of the 1st, giving the Mets the lead that they would never relinquish. Reyes became the first Met to lead off with a home run in the 1st inning of a postseason game since former outfielder Lenny Dykstra in Game 3 of the 1986 World Series against the Boston Red Sox. The Cardinals stranded several runners against Maine. In the top of the 1st inning with runners on 2nd and 3rd on 1 out, Maine struck out Jim Edmonds. Maine hit Juan Cosillon with the pitch to hold the bases. Scott Rowland flew out the top of the 3rd with a runner on 2nd and nobody out. Maine struck out Scott Spezio, intentionally walked Albert Pujols. Edmonds then flew out. Maine struck out and Cosillon to finish the job. Sean Green hit an RBI single in the 4th off of starter Carlos Carpenter, and Paulo Duca added 2 more with an RBI hit in the 7th inning of Braden Looper. Billy Wagner came on in the 9th, allowed a leadoff single to Juan Cosillon and subsequent double to Scott Rowland. After retiring the next 2 batters, Wagner gave up a 2-run double to Sol Taguchi before retiring David Eckstein to win the game. So now we got a Game 7. It's not like a Game 7 in any sport, whether it be baseball, hockey, basketball, hockey, and baseball. So in this NLCS, it was Game 7 between the Mets and the Cardinals. The Mets sent Game 4 winner Oliver Perez to the mound to go up against Jeff Suppan. The Mets jumped out to an early 1-0 lead when David Wright drove in Carlos Beltran in the 1st. The boot single into the right field. The Cardinals tied the game in the 2nd. Ronnie Belliard hit into a squeeze play that scored Jim Edmonds from 3rd. So in the 5th, with runners on 1st and 2nd and 2 gone, Albert Pujols came up to the plate. Even with Chad Bradford warming up in the bullpen, Willie Randolph decided to stay with Perez. He got Pujols to pop out. Perez ran into some more trouble in the 6th with the runner on and 1 out. So when Scott Rowland hit a long fly ball to left field to create one of the greatest defensive plays in postseason history. The ball cleared the fence, but Endy Chavez amazingly brought it back by snow coning the ball, jumping from the edge of the warning track to retrieve what looked to be an easy home run. But he then threw the ball to first base quickly to double off Jim Edmonds, who had rounded second on his way to third to end the inning. He received 2 curtain calls from the Shea Stadium crowd. So with the bases loaded and 1 out in the bottom of the 6th, Jose Valentin Chavez failed to get the go-ahead run in. So with the score 1-1 in the top of the 9th, Yadier Molina, with a man on base, hit a deep fly ball off of Aaron Hellman in the same general direction as the one rolling hit in the 6th. The ball was hit too high for Chavez to catch and gave the Cardinals a 3-1 lead with 3 outs in the bottom of the 9th, to 3 outs away from a pennant. So all they had to do was get 3 more outs in the bottom of the 9th. They would won the pennant. So rookie closer Adam Wainwright yielded singles to Valentin and Chavez to lead off the inning. So after getting a strikeout and a flyout, Wainwright walked Paulo Duca to bring up Carlos Beltran with the bases loaded. Now it gets no better than this. The bases loaded, game on the line. Down 3-1. So down 0-2 to the rookie Wainwright. Beltran looked at a called strike 3. A curveball on the outside corner at the knees to end the game. And this was the last playoff game played in Shea Stadium, the last postseason appearance for the Mets until 2015. 6 years after Citi Field opened. It was also the second time that a visiting team won a postseason series at Shea. The other was the Yankees' victory over the Mets in the 2000 World Series. So that concludes a look at the 2006 New York Mets, a team that should have won the championship that year. They had their chances. You know, they could have been the best team in New York and best team in baseball, but they ran into a Cardinals team that just came through when it needed to come through and win a dramatic Game 7 in Shea Stadium. So that concludes a look at the 2006 New York Mets. This is part 43 of professional sports teams that didn't win the championship. Part 43. Please like, subscribe, comment on this channel in general, especially this video. Until then, talk to you tomorrow.